When I traveled to work with this linebacker DB hybrid, he was feeling a lot of pain in his back. If I had only looked at where he was hurting, it would have been easy to spend the entire session working on his back. But pain doesn't always tell the whole story. It's simply a symptom. One of the first things I do with every athlete is ask questions. I want to understand not just what's hurting today, but what their body has been through over the last several months, even years. Football is a sport built on collisions, compensations, and repetition. Every injury has the potential to change the way an athlete moves, even after they have been cleared to play. I have worked with this athlete the last 2 years, so I already was aware of previous injuries in the shoulder and opposite hip, and he mentioned a moment recently where he had had a sharp pain shoot through his big toe after planting hard on the field. None of those areas was where he was currently feeling the pain, but all of them immediately caught my attention. When one area of the body isn't moving well, something else has to pick up the slack. So that's what I was looking for during this session. Since lower back pain was the major complaint, I started with the hip that had been injured previously. It often takes time for the body to let go of the tension in an area that was injured. His body was guarding in the front of the hip, and the quad muscle on that side was also bound up. To help his nervous system stop the guarding, I started with some gentle myofascial work on the abdomen, which eventually allowed me to get in deeper into the hip flexor muscles. I felt tension just under the rib cage on the opposite side, which I was able to release with a gliding cup. This work then led me to follow that fascial line that goes diagonally across the body to the opposite shoulder that had been injured several years ago. Doing deep tissue work in the shoulder helped release the tension and restore movement where the body had been protecting itself. Whether you're sprinting, changing direction, throwing, blocking, or tackling, your body transfers power through these diagonal chains that connect one hip to the opposite shoulder. If either end of that chain isn't moving well, another area has to compensate. This all helped the quad muscle to let go a little bit, but was still a lot to get into it. So the thought came to me that I just wasn't getting where I wanted to with the quad, so I put him in a side-lying position so I could assess the adductor muscle on the inner thigh better. This position allowed me to get into the adductor deeper without as much effort or muscling through it. Since linebackers have really well-developed adductor muscles, I did not want to fight with it. An isometric hold also helped to relax this muscle. When I went back to work on the quad one more time, the tissue was noticeably softer and responded much more easily. Toward the end of the session, I also revisited the big toe we'd mentioned earlier. Your feet are your foundation. If an athlete can't load through the foot well, that change doesn't stay in the foot. It can influence the ankle, knee, hip, and eventually the lower back. Sometimes what appears to be back pain actually begins much further down the chain. For his feet, not only did I do hands-on body work, but I had him stand on the foot bridge from fasciitis fighter. This helps with strength in the arch of the foot and ankle, because if we're collapsing through the arch of the foot, then we collapse up through the hip. And to begin working on the big toe mobility, I had him perform calf raises on the round by fasciitis fighter. Throughout the session, I used a combination of techniques. You'll see cupping, scraping, deep tissue work, and myofascial release. None of these techniques are magic by themselves. They're just simply tools. The important part is understanding why we're choosing each one and how it fits into the bigger picture. Because my goal isn't just to make tissue feel looser for an hour. It's to help the athlete's nervous system feel safe enough to move differently again. One of the biggest misconceptions about bodywork is that it's about chasing pain. In reality, I'm often chasing movement. I'm looking for restrictions, asymmetries, old injuries, and patterns that may be forcing another area to work harder than it should. And sometimes the place that hurts isn't actually the place that needs the most attention. One of my favorite parts of this work is that no two sessions are ever the same. I may begin with a plan, but I'm constantly reassessing. Every release changes what I feel next. Sometimes the body confirms exactly what I expected. Other times it takes me somewhere completely different. This session was one of those days where everything just flowed. Instead of forcing a protocol, I simply followed what his body kept telling me. By the end of the session, this linebacker's back pain had settled down significantly. But what made me happiest wasn't that he just felt better. It was knowing we had addressed some of the underlying contributors instead of only treating the symptom. That's one of the things I love most about working with football athletes. Every player has a different history, different positions, different injuries, different movement strategies. Two linebackers can come in with the exact same complaint and need completely different treatments. Because recovery isn't one size fits all. It's about understanding the athlete standing in front of you, listening to their story, and helping their body find a better way to move. That's the approach I bring to every session because the goal isn't simply getting an athlete out of pain. It's helping them stay healthy, stay resilient, and be ready for many more game days to come. And since I didn't have access to a gym while I was traveling, I sent him a couple exercises to continue the work on his own. Body work can create change, but movement is what helps reinforce it. So the first exercise was a bird dog row, and the second was a single leg bridge with a press through the opposite arm. Both of these challenge the body to coordinate the shoulder, core, and opposite hip, helping restore strength and stability through the fascial sling that connects the hip and the opposite shoulder. After an injury, it's common for the body to lose some of that connection. The goal isn't just to make the muscles stronger, it's to help the body communicate more efficiently again. And by connecting the hip back to the opposite shoulder through these movement patterns, we're reinforcing the same chains that football players rely on every time they sprint, cut, tackle, or change direction. So recovery doesn't stop when they get off the table. The best results come from combining hands-on treatment with the right movement so the body learns to keep those improvements long after the session is over.